Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at DataStack Summit. We have a great discussion today around optimizing high-performance data at scale for the forward future enterprise. And with me, we have Esaú with Arcus Financial. We have Gokul with Capital One and Vikas with T-Mobile. So what I'll do is take a couple minutes for everyone to introduce themselves, and then we'll jump right into the discussion.
I can go first.
Great.
I'm Gokul Prabagaren. I'm with Capital One. I currently lead a team. If you have used any of our credit cards, it doesn't go without touching our platform, which we manage. Primarily focused on big data technologies. That's my area of interest.
Okay, this is Esaú from Mexico City. I'm working with Arcus. That is like a startup that was recently acquired by MasterCard. Here at Arcus, I'm the data engineer, but actually the role is like a mix between data engineer and data architect. So I have been working to set up all the infrastructure for a data platform to ingest data, analyze it, and help the users to create reports and analyze data. So that's it.
Hello, everyone. This is Vikas Ranjan. I'm a senior engineering leader at T-Mobile, and my team is responsible for building end-to-end network analytics solutions for all the T-Mobile customers, with a one single goal to be #1 telco company in US.
Great, and thank you all for joining us today. We have some different interesting perspectives from different industries and different roles, so it should be a great conversation. I'll kick it off and then we'll go around the table. So open it up with, what role do you see open source playing in cloud and on-prem environments? I think it's really important to focus on the cloud because that's what everyone's talking about, but we could also address on-prem specifically with the enterprise audience at DataStack Summit today. Gokul, do you want to start us?
Yeah, I can take it.
Great.
From my view, I think there are probably, as you were also saying, like it's mostly the cloud. I think the on-premise hybrid, there are only few of the open source things which strikes that balance. Let's say Kubernetes, I think they are cloud native, but they do offer things like being hybrid. But the role primarily I see is they are somewhat ahead and they define the standards, right? Like, because the ETL used to be the one which is primarily used across, and now that is being challenged with the ELT, right? With companies like DBT or Airbright, they do offer the products, but most of those things are primarily developed open source. So my view is more like they are the ones who are kind of defining the standards, which slowly the industry adopts. So that's what I see, the open source playing in the cloud, particularly on-premise. There is definitely a come in the space because there are a lot of which have been used in on-premise. Those are more and more becoming, at least in our industry or in our company, it's more becoming legacy. We don't use that anymore. So I'm more for cloud.
Yeah, and I think that's the trend, and that's where everyone's going eventually. But
Yeah, from T-Mobile, I think we have seen being part of leading and driving this massive scale data platform. Since we deal with trillions of transactions, a lot of complex network logs, I think it all comes down to what are your key business drivers. What we are seeing in our in our evolution, in our journey of being in this hybrid state using on-prem and cloud for the last few years is we need to find the right balance between both, and this is where we see open source is helping us bridge the gap. Right? There are cases where you want agility, where you want speed, where you want flexibility, and you go to cloud. Whereas there are cases where there are some very sensitive data set, there are some regulatory data sets, which you cannot put on cloud. And what we have seen with as a data estate leaders, what we have seen is open source is helping us, bring best of the both. Gokul talked about Kubernetes, which is what we have seen heavily being adopted now. There are companies who are building products, cloud native products using Kubernetes. There are other companies like Facebook and Meta of the world, who are building Trinio, which you can run on both on-prem and cloud seamlessly. So end of the day, what we are seeing is, from our perspective, hybrid is becoming the new norm. look at your drivers, look at what is the best for you, look at the total cost of ownership. Most importantly, look at the skills of your team. If you want to embrace and build an open source yourself, you need to have the right skills in your team. So I think with all those factors, we in T-Mobile are definitely looking at balancing between hybrid ecosystem by using open source technologies like Kubernetes, Trino, now Apache Iceberg, and also leveraging the power of hyperscalers on the cloud for speed and agility.
Yeah. From my point of view, I think that actually the open source projects are in some way empowering the cloud, because you can see, that's mentioned before, Kubernetes, but for example, in AWS, they are taking advantages of these open source projects. They make some customization of this and then offer them as new service in the cloud. That, from my point of view, is a win-to-win situation, because the cloud can offer a new service and get money for this, but for us as developers or as data architects, we are looking for tools that help us to deliver value in a quickly way, in the quickest way possible. So, for example, in AWS, we have like the most obvious example is the OpenSearch that changed the name from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch in the previous month. That under the hood, they are using Elasticsearch, but for some issues with the licenses, now they changed the name to OpenSearch. But basically, they are offering Elasticsearch under the new brand name that is OpenSearch. We have other examples like MSK, that is, for example, Apache Kafka, but managed in AWS. We have, for example, the most obvious example that are the databases, for example, the MySQL or Postgres, that are exactly the same, but they just add like auto-scaling, a fully managed service, and it is a complete new service in the cloud. But under the hood, it's the same open source project. So I think open source is empowering the cloud in some way, but at this time that we are, or this moment that we are living, this is what we are looking for, like gain or take advantage of these services to move quickly. So this is like my point of view on this.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And, I think this is a good segue into the next topic, talking about Kafka, talking about Spark. And that is non-open source and non-native technologies like Databricks and Snowflake are playing larger roles in the cloud. And I just want to know where you all see that going. Is that a trend? How will this evolve? Let's hear your feedback.
Yeah, excellent question. I think what we are definitely seeing, companies like Databricks, who are basically the creators behind the Apache Spark, and companies like Snowflake, right? As we see the growth in data, as we see a lot more companies, enterprises becoming data-driven, the speed is the game, right? Speed is the key, right? We need to deliver data now. We need to deliver insights now. We don't have time where we want to build the solutions from the scratch, right? And what these guys did was they basically look at what are the gaps in the industry, right? They looked at, for example, if you look at Databricks and Snowflake, Databricks started building the solution for data engineers, data scientists, play with the data, explore the data, whereas Snowflake looked at the big gap in the industry is how do you provide data easily to the users? How do you make data analysis simpler? How can you go and play with this huge volume of data in the traditional data warehouses words? It used to be very complex. There was, you were constrained with the capacity. Snowflake leveraged the power of cloud, the scalability and the elasticity. And they are basically, they started building their product to make life easy for data analysts and data users, right? So in our opinion, what we are seeing is these companies will continue to evolve. What we are recently seeing in Snowflake, they were really good when you are looking at the data, but they did not really have a service to present the data, prepare the data, right? And this is where we see Databricks and Snowflake complementing each other. At the same time, we see companies like Databricks are now, they were saying, hey, we are really awesome for engineering, for massive data processing, but we still find our data analysts to have some struggle using our services. So they came up with the Databricks SQL, right? Similarly, Snowflake is coming with a Snowflake. So in my opinion, in my experience, I think these companies will continue to evolve, continue to grow. They will continue to complement each other with their services. At the same time, they will continue to add more features to their arsenal to make life easier for the data user community and the enterprises.
Yeah, I agree with because I think it's the speed and the time in which you really need the insights, right? I don't think not all the companies have the muscle to start building things, because what the products, whatever Snowflake offers, like even from Databricks side, there is a Delta Lake or Delta Lake sharing. They want to establish some standards there, but still, I am not really believing that those things probably there are companies probably will tinker on those things and take care of managing all those things by themselves, but these products probably will play a major role in companies where they don't have the muscle to manage all the things, right? So I see these two companies having a greater role, and as Chris was also touching upon it, they both are at some point coming together with their functionalities and features. It probably maybe some point they may start doing things together, right? We are not sure, but mostly like there is definitely some synergy happening when it comes to both of them. And Esaú was also touching upon the things where AWS was kind of offering a lot of these things. I think I do see that those things probably will continue to evolve, because that's what I think I see that as a open source 2.0, where that's still being developed. Companies are developing things in open, but it's still got a strong backing from a particular company like Databricks, Spark. The other example I was saying, the Delta Lake, all those things, even DBT, everything still developed open, but it still has a backing. So those kind of things will play a major role in cloud, and all cloud providers, they will adopt those things and just wrap it around. So I do see that probably is where these two will come together.
Yeah, one more thing I think I want to add is also, I think these two companies are playing a unique role in a multi-cloud space, right? You're not now tied to a service in AWS versus tied to a service in Azure or Google. They are filling the gap. They are helping enterprises to leverage the best of the breed, best of the services across the different hyperscalers by bringing their solution across all those. So I think that's a very unique proposition we are seeing. Databricks and Snowflake leading from the front.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And continue with the point with the last question. I think that right now, for example, the cloud is growing as fast as never before, because we are, as you already mentioned, the time is the key. We need to deliver. We need to deliver value to the company. So this is why all small and mid companies start migrating their services and their servers to the cloud to move faster, to keep it easier and move quickly. So these tools like Databricks and well, I will focus on Databricks specifically because I have been working with this. I think this trend will definitely continue to gain momentum, because what they are actually doing is, as you already mentioned, is closing the gap between the people that didn't know how to use Apache Spark before, and how to start like creating ETLs, ELTs to, I don't know, create a dashboard or analysis. And from my experience, it was like this, like I haven't heard before like Apache Spark, and when I hear about it, I start reading about it. I start like taking online trainings, but I see that the Spark is like a very complex technology to understand. So to really understand Spark, you need to start using it to really see what is happening behind when you create, like, for example, a data set or everything that you are working with. So Databricks like close this gap between the people that are afraid, for example, me in like 4 years ago, to start using Apache Spark. and start using it because it is like very user-friendly interface where you can have like a notebook if you want and start like interacting with Apache Spark and see the advantages that you have processing the data with Apache Spark. And yeah, so from my point of view, this will continue to gain momentum, and this trend will continue for the next years because connecting the dots with the last question, we are looking for tools or services that help us to move quickly, to deliver value to the companies. And the Databricks is offering like a very, very good tool that help you to introduce to a very complex technology in a very easy and user-friendly like environment.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And they both just continue to gain adoption and launch new partnerships and new tools. And it's really exciting to see the direction. And I like the concept of how they play off each other and complement each other, because, you know, it's not this or it's this and or this potentially, you know, based on where your fit is and what your stack looks like and where you're trying to accomplish. So that's really interesting perspective there. Next question, the $1 million question. And I think a lot of people, especially for this conference, are really interested in learning more about, or some takeaways potentially, is what we frequently hear about cloud costs and budgets skyrocketing out of control. And I'm sure you've all heard this a million times, or you're in conversation with people who are watching it under a microscope. What steps can be taken to gain visibility and reduce costs in challenging macro environments that we seem to be jumping into as we speak?
Yeah, this is excellent question. You know, as a technology leaders, as a business leaders, you know, we always want to provide the best at the lowest cost, right? Or TCO, right? So over the last 3 years of our journey, we have seen in the cloud, we are back in the cloud. And I'm pretty sure, you know, listening to this from the other leaders across the enterprise, I'm pretty sure we all have heard about those cloud horror stories. I'm pretty sure we have all heard about, you know, a day we woke up and we saw a bill went up by like 300%, right? We all have been through the journey as we started and we learned over the years. I think to me, the key here is put the right guardrails. You know, cloud hyperscalers do provide, you know, showback models. They do provide chargeback models, but that's not enough. I think the key to success is, and this is what we learned as we learned from some of these pain points, challenges, is put the right tagging in place, put the right policies in place, and not just put the policies, but enforce the policies. Providing the visibility and transparency is the key. You know, provide the visibility and transparency through showbacks and chargebacks to your business leaders, to your line of businesses, right? Making sure that we are doing auditing telemetry is the key here. Making sure you put the right telemetry and looking at the usage of the systems or the services or the applications you're using, and tagging helps there a lot, right? Making sure that, you know, you use some soft quotas for the cost, although they are soft, but that helps to kind of manage and understand. In past, when we saw people started doing cloud, you know, cost was important, but not the primary driver.
Yeah.
As we have over the years, as we have started leveraging more cloud native services, cloud services, I think we need to put cloud as a part of our design. The cloud cost should be part of your design, cloud design. When you're building a service on cloud, you know, you should be looking at cost as a key driver. You know, that is the part which we have seen a lot of organizations have missed in past. We have missed in past. We have learned in past, right? So to me, it comes down to, again, having the right auditing, having the right telemetry, having the right tagging. And most importantly, what we have also seen is these hyperscalers do provide something called CAF, Cloud Adoption Architecture, and WAF, well architecture frameworks. I think we should definitely go and leverage those. We should do a regular assessment by third party or by these cloud providers to go and do an audit assessment of our cost. What are the opportunities? Leverage reserve instance cost, for example. You know, make sure that your systems are, you know, shutting down when they're supposed to shut down. So the automation, the infrastructure as a key, as a code is a key here, right? Those are some of the best practices, you know, which can help us manage the cost and become more deterministic than unpredictable.
I see the two things, right? I think visibility, as Vikas was doing, I think visibility into your assets, right? How, whether you really need those things, right? I do see that in the initial phases, probably people may just run fast. They may not really care about the cost. And there are two, in my view, I do see that there is definitely a market opened up for that. There are a lot of products, which are SaaS products, cloud held, I think VMware owns. Those are the things, it's you can start using them in your environment, but there are teams, because I have seen all the things in Kaplan itself, like we have been using those, but now we have which we have built on our own, which gives us more granular control on our assets, right? So this definitely plays a major role. And I just want to make a plug, because was also alluding to that. Kaplan has actually open sourced Cloud Custodian, which is DSL based policy enforcer, where you can write all your things, then it takes care by automated way for all the clouds. We actually use that in our environment, and that is now open source. It's a CNC of sandbox project. This is where I do see that in an automated way, you can take care of the cost, right? It's more like, hey, I don't want to hit this threshold, or how can we take care of the things before it is really hitting the threshold by enforcing all these things in your lower environments, and then probably taking care of those things wherever it's needed in your higher environment. But lower environment is where I do see that there is a definite role where cost is something we can consider. So Cloud Custodian is one of the tools which I do see there. I'm not sure the adoption, but that definitely will help to ensure this, keeping the cost in control.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. I think that everything that I have in mind, you already mentioned it. But I will keep with two points. The first one is that the solution for the cost, it will remain in the cloud, because for example, one thing that will help a lot to see the cost and see how is behavior your services is tagging, right? So this is something that is already mentioned. So if you can break down the cost between your different like teams or areas and see what is happening, and if the costs are what you are expecting, then you can manage better the cost for area, for team. And also the other point will be to have the cost as a business value or key value, because you need to see if what is costing is delivering the value that you are expecting, or if not, if it is costing more than the value that is that you are delivering, then you should need to reevaluate the solution or the service. So I think these 2 points are very important, and this will help you a lot to maintain the cost under control, or at least well managed between your teams or your different departments. And yeah, that's it. I will keep with these 2 key points.
I think you brought up a very interesting point, actually. One of the shift we have seen over the last many years, going from the traditional on-prem platforms to cloud, is the shift in business mindset. I think that's important. You need to clearly understand the value. Experimentation is good, exploration is good, but with the cloud, with the cost coming into the picture now, we have to really identify what is this problem going to solve for us? Is this a good to have problem versus must to have problem, right? And then you invest your money accordingly, right? You manage your spend smartly, efficiently, right? Rather than just opening the system and then, every engineer has an idea to solve the word hunger, right? All of us, right?
Yeah,
important is how this is going to solve our business problem, right? And what benefits we're going to give. I think that's important to look at when you're building cloud solutions, rather than just opening the door to everybody, and then the technical owners and the business owners have to worry about answering to the leadership. Important thing is the business value.
Yeah, and also I think that, for example, the data architects, the data engineers, developers need to be aware of the cost as well, because if you are not aware of the cost, then you don't really know what is costing what you are, for example, testing, or you are doing something wrong. So with the cost in mind, you are more aware that if you need to change something, this will cost something. So this will keep you like a better solutions or better ways to do things.
And also the user training, actually, just to add to that, right? Because users think, hey, my query is optimal, add 3 more CPU units.
Yeah.
The query run faster. Why this data is needed now? Why the time is important. I think that's the key again, right? Do you need this insights to solve a problem now? Or is that something you can wait for 4 hours to give the results and look at the analysis later? I think those are some best practices in addition to all the good things you guys have shared. In our opinion is important, because when you're looking at the cost, you have to look at the cost holistically, right? You have to look at the cost from a business perspective, you have to look at the cost from a technical team perspective, and you have to look at the cost from a user perspective.
Yeah, I think one thing because you brought up, I think that is a good point. Like shifting this cost into the design phase left side, I do see that is definitely where at least we can see reduction, because engineers, so I was also saying that engineers need to really know, hey, how much is reinventing this wheel is going to cost. Otherwise, they probably may not take that route. Instead, they may adopt to some standard things which already exist. If they are not aware of the cost at the early phases, they may keep on doing research and a lot of other things. I think that's one point you brought up. I think that is definitely a key thing to consider. Consider this in early phases of your development.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and some really interesting perspective on not just how to reduce the cost, but what is the business case for each cost, and is it important, and is it needed now, especially in the macro environments that we're facing currently. So really appreciate that candor and feedback. I think we can go around and just do one last kind of takeaway from the session. I know I have mine. I think open source is the future. I think that's obvious and everyone can agree. Databricks, Snowflake, they're not going anywhere. They're only growing. They're only adding services, products, becoming more prominent in the space. And audit your assessment, audit your costs. And don't ask just how do we see what we're spending, but why are we spending? Those are my takeaways, but we can do one circle around here and see if you want to add any additional feedback, and then we'll wrap up because we're at about time.
I think open source, until maybe we find a different business model. In my view, open source 2.0, where things which is, as you was also saying, like managed or any form of that, right? There is a strong backing from the company. Probably that's the way things may evolve, right? It's until we really see a different model, but develop in open, but have more customized product as an offering for the enterprises. That's where I see things may evolve.
Yeah, from my point of view, I think that the 2 big takeaways will be like be able to take advantages of the new technologies or software that offer you to move quickly, but also keep in mind and be aware of the cost that this represents, and always to try to optimize the use of the different services.
Yeah, I think I agree with my fellow panelist here. I think end of the day, the key important takeaway from me is tie your technical solutioning with your business value, right? And leverage the best of the both, right? Whether you are building open source in-house with the right skills, or whether you're using open source managed solutions, I think end of the day, it has to be tied back to your business problem and your technical competency in a most cost-efficient manner.
Yeah, I think we can all agree, and thank you for that. And thank you all for joining us today, DataStax Summit. Some interesting takeaways, and we'll see you at our next event.
Thanks for having us here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good day.